So I went to bed at about 11:30 that night. When I went to bed, it was a severe thunderstorm warning. There was no tornado warning or watch or anything at that point. There were no warning sirens that sounded. And by 10 minutes after 12, midnight, a tornado hit. The Red Cross came to me. I was reaching out to them to see if there was a list of survivors, because first and foremost, I wanted my daughter to know that we were okay. I knew where my son was in the midst of all that. I had seen my husband, but I never did see her. And as I'm in the hospital seeing my husband for the first time and his prognosis wasn't good, my pastor was there. I said, I've been calling the Red Cross. I haven't heard anything about Stephanie. And he said, they didn't tell you. And she didn't make it. So that was when I heard that news, trying to get my head around the fact that my husband was dying and now my daughter is gone. My home is destroyed. And from that moment, I decided that I really wanted to give back, but I didn't know how until years later when somebody suggested being a lone campaign rep. But as I was going through the lone campaign rep training and I realized that the Red Cross was one, I remembered thinking back in that day before I was even affiliated with United Way, how impressed I was that the Red Cross came to me. I just can't say that enough. They were there when I needed them, and they offered shelter and clothing and anything else I might need. You're looking at the face of a person that could be helped, who was helped by United Way funds.
We call it a turning point, a moment of truth, a moment when we realize how close the United Way stands next to us.
You would think, being a patrolman in the Lafayette Police Department, experiencing some pretty horrific things, that I would have a better understanding of some of the needs in our community, but I didn't. And working with the United Way, that really opened my eyes to some of the situations that not just our youth get into, but our elderly get into, some of the issues involving gaps in education. Obviously, the folks that are dealing with economic issues, people that live in the lower economic stratifications, people who don't have homes, people who don't have clean clothes, people that have no medical care, people who are just really in need that for some reason seem to fall sort of between the cracks.
What the United Way has done for this community is brought out the natural tendency of people that live around here to serve and to give. And I think this community and the United Way are a good fit.
It's really interesting for me because my moment of truth had nothing to do with the actual physical experience of reading. The very first day of my second year, I walk in the classroom, and it was just like deja vu. Same day as the last year, same time. Walk in, and the teacher's doing her thing. She's introducing me to the class. Hi, everyone. This is Miss Rahim, and she's going to help you with Read to Succeed, just like she did last year. And all the little kindergartners are kind of doing their thing, meaning that they're kind of listening and kind of not. However, there was this one little girl sitting in the front, and she was doing the same thing, kind of listening, kind of not. And then eventually she looks up, and she sees me, and we make eye contact, and she has a physical reaction. And she goes, "She's brown like me." And it was loud enough for me to hear it, for the teacher to hear it. And in that moment, I had so many emotions because I was amused, I was kind of sad. So I just looked down at that little girl and I said, "Yes, I'm brown like you." That was really the moment for me where I realized I was really supposed to be there. As a woman of color, as a young professional, as someone who genuinely cares about people as a whole, especially youth, it really, really impacted me. And I've told so many people this story. And it just, part of the reason why it makes me sad is because, at 5, I'm a rarity in her academic experience at 5. And I know that there are students at Purdue University at 25, that's a rarity in their academic experience. And so to make a difference in a child's life that young means a lot.
Even a brief encounter with the United Way of Greater Lafayette can inspire a moment of truth when one sees the organization and its people in a new light.
I don't think there's anything that's not covered by our local United Way. If you don't speak the language, or if you have learning disabilities, if you need a place to stay, if you're escaping a horrible situation, there are so many organizations that can help.
You help because I think that's what you do. You try to help your fellow man. You're trying to help the folks down the street who need a hand. And United Way has a way of making that street a lot closer.
One of the absolute attributes that I love about this community is there are very low barriers to entry. So if you want to become involved, all you have to do is raise your hand and say, hey, I think I would like to do something. Do you have any things? And there's going to be 55 people around the table going to be saying, yeah, you can help us to do this or that.
My wife called. She had not been feeling well, had finally decided to go see somebody, and they had sent her to the emergency room. By the end of what seemed like hours, we got one of those conversations from an emergency room doctor that you don't want to get. And he came back and essentially said, there's lesions all over your liver. And I remember him saying, I'm so sorry. And it felt like a death sentence right there. She had colon cancer that had spread to her liver, and stage 4 and not good. So it kind of became a race because it was very advanced, treatable but advanced. We lost that race in April of 2014 after just a little over 4 months. And it was quick, and it was aggressive, and it was terrible. My United Way moment came shortly before the end of the race, if you will. It was very difficult for her to walk. And so it was a lot of assistance, and we were getting to the point of a transport chair. I remember thinking, okay, I got to get a ramp installed. I don't know the first thing about that. I don't know who to call. I don't know any of this. And all of a sudden it kind of struck me. I called and said, hey, I got a problem, and they got me in touch with someone. I got something put up right away. My wife loved warm weather with a passion. And we were able to get her out that last week. I was able to push her and walk around the neighborhood. It was warm enough, and we still had her bundled up. And that ramp meant everything for what turned out to be her last week. And she was able to be out in the sun, and I don't know what I would have done. They gave her a week. They gave her a week, and I'll be forever grateful.
It's like a moment of truth when we suddenly realize the United Way isn't what we always thought it was. That the person who benefits from our gift has a face. The face of someone who actually lives on our own street. Or even the face of someone we know personally. And in that moment of giving, some of us may even realize we're not who we thought we were, because our gift impacts us. That's what makes giving to the United Way of Greater Lafayette so uniquely fulfilling. It gives you something back. It gives you the opportunity to affect someone close to you. Someone so close, you might not even realize it. Now is your moment of truth. Give, advocate, volunteer to your United Way, your community.